4 days. That is all the time that passed between Robert Hammond paying his wife's life insurance and wrapping his bare hands around her throat. He had dinner with her the night before. He used the gym with her on the Sunday. He went to bed with her that night, and in the early hours of October 30th, 2023, he called 999. Said he had found her face down on the bed, not breathing. At 2:35 in the morning, Sian Hammond was pronounced dead. She was 46 years old, and the man who called for help was the man who had killed her. This is the case of Sian Hammond, and what you are about to hear is not just a murder story. It is the story of a woman who built a life, a family, and a future, for a man who had already decided she was worth more dead than alive. If this case already has your attention, stay with me to the end. And if this channel is where you come for true crime told with the weight it deserves, kindly hit subscribe. Sian Llewellyn was born in November 1976 in Wales. From an early age, she was exceptional. Not the student who just passes exams, the student who genuinely understands things. She earned a first-class honours degree in biochemistry, a field that demands real intellectual precision, years of focused work, and the kind of mind that holds complexity and still finds the truth inside it. She had that mind. She was also, by every account, someone you would genuinely want in your life. Her family described her as one of the friendliest people you could ever meet. The judge who sentenced her killer described her as kind, bubbly, very friendly, devoted to her daughters, proud of them, hardworking. She had recently completed her first 10K run. No small achievement for someone who also ran a business, a household, and showed up for everyone around her. She was the person who remembered things about people, who made others feel seen. And then there was Robert. Robert James Hammond, known locally as James, had a very different background. He left school at 16, worked a market stall, a furniture shop, found his way into financial services, and discovered he was genuinely gifted at it. Persuasive, charming, the kind of person who walks into a room and within minutes makes people feel understood. Sian and Robert married at 18. Both of them, two teenagers who found each other before most people have figured out who they are. They moved to Cambridge, settled in Histon, a quiet village just north of the city. They had 2 daughters. Sian stepped back from her scientific career to raise the girls, and when they were older, she retrained as a financial and mortgage advisor and joined the family businesses. She was listed as director, company secretary, and person with significant control across several entities. She was not a name on a letterhead. She was the person who made everything actually work. From the outside, the life they had built looked impressive. Multiple properties, frequent holidays. Robert with near-perfect client reviews. To every observer, they were the young couple who had moved to Cambridge and made it work. Nobody saw what was happening underneath. Nobody, not even Sian. By 2023, Robert Hammond owed more than £300,000. Over 190, C-zone to legal and general. Around 80,000 sound to HMRC, short-term loans, bounce-back loans from the pandemic. A catastrophic financial position, hidden not just from the world, but from Sian. The judge later found it inconceivable that Sian would have agreed with his approach, because what Robert was doing was not mismanagement. It was deliberate, sustained fraud. Through 2023, he told creditors he had cancer, that he had suffered a mental breakdown, that he and Sian were divorcing, that Sian herself was in hospital. Every single statement, a lie. The judge called him a habitual and accomplished liar who lied whenever it suited his purpose. There was a way out that did not involve murder, The Hammonds had equity in jointly owned properties. The debts could have been cleared, but clearing them meant admitting the truth. It meant losing the portfolio, the image, the life he had constructed from nothing over 30 years. It meant becoming the man who had failed. That humiliation, for a man like Robert Hammond, was apparently unthinkable. And so he began to think about another way out. Sian held a life insurance policy worth £450,000. If Sian died, he could clear every debt, keep every property, preserve the image of a life that was already in ruins underneath. And here is where his case moved from desperate to deliberate. Because what Robert Hammond did next was not the act of a man who had snapped. It was the act of a man who was planning. Carefully, methodically, step by step. Stay with me. October 25th, 2023. 4 days before Sian's death, Robert Hammond paid the arrears on her life insurance policy, bringing it fully up to date. The judge would later say it was inconceivable that he did not have that payout in mind. October 26th, 3 days before the murder. Robert opened his laptop and searched for how much diazepam would constitute a lethal overdose. He knew Sian took diazepam for anxiety. He knew she would be anxious that weekend. One of their daughters was flying home from Switzerland, and Sian always worried when the girls travelled. He was already thinking concretely about how to kill his wife. October 29th, the morning of the day Sian would die. He made another search. How to disconnect the passenger airbag in a Ford Focus of a specific model year. One of the family cars matched that description exactly. Sian sometimes sat in the passenger seat while Robert drove. The judge concluded that Robert was actively considering multiple methods of killing his wife. A staged overdose. A car crash engineered to look like an accident. Before settling on the final, brutal reality of what he actually did. 2 days before the murder, he called a debt recovery agent at Legal & General. He told her to call him on the Monday. He said something may have changed. He was scheduling his creditors around his timeline for murder. If you are still with me, you already know this case is different. The level of calculation here is something most people never encounter. Subscribe to this channel if you want cases like this told the way they deserve to be. Now let's get to Sunday night. The weekend, on the surface, looked completely ordinary. Saturday night, dinner with friends. A couple at the table, laughing, making conversation. Sunday, the garage. A meal together, the home gym. Television in the evening. And later that night, they went to bed. While Sian was doing the ordinary, comfortable thing she had done 1,000 times in their marriage, Robert Hammond was already waiting, already decided, already counting. Late on the night of October 29th, 2023, in the bedroom of their home in Histon, Robert Hammond wrapped his bare hands around his wife's throat and strangled her. The forensic evidence showed sustained compression of her neck. The judge said it likely lasted a minute or more. That is an extraordinarily long time. Long enough for Sian to understand what was happening. Long enough to fight back. And she did fight back. The forensic record documented defensive injuries on her face and arms. Gripping injuries. Trauma to the back of her head. Sian Hammond did not go quietly. She used everything she had. She did not survive. Robert was wearing his Whoop fitness tracker throughout. The device monitors heart rate continuously and passively. The wearer cannot pause it or delete readings in real time. It simply records whatever the body is doing. It recorded approximately 20 minutes of elevated heart rate, around the time Sian died. The prosecution argued a significant portion of that elevation occurred during the strangulation itself. And then the device went dark. The prosecution argued it had been removed from his wrist after the killing. The judge accepted that interpretation. Robert Hammond's own body, recorded by his own technology on his own wrist, testified against him. He could not argue with his own heart rate. Robert went downstairs. He waited. Just before 2 a.m, he called 999, said he had found his wife face down on the bed. When instructed to begin CPR, he gave every impression of complying. He was not complying. A paramedic later confirmed no CPR had been attempted at any point. His performance of grief had begun. When police arrived, they found bruising on Sian's body, a broken picture frame at the top of the stairs. Robert was vague about timings. Something was wrong. The post-mortem confirmed everything. Manual strangulation, defensive injuries, no natural cause whatsoever. The pathology opened the door, and once it was open, everything else rushed through. Home CCTV showed no one had entered or left the house that night. No forced entry, no third party, only Robert. His financial record surfaced. The debt, the lies to creditors, the insurance arrears paid 4 days before her death, and then the detail the prosecutor called the most revealing moment in the entire case. While Sian's body was barely cold, Robert called legal and general. He told them she had died. He asked about receiving a reduction in interest if he paid the balance off quickly, using the life insurance payout. The prosecutor told Cambridge Crown Court he had his eyes firmly on the prize. Robert Hammond was arrested on November 10th, 2023, 11 days after Sian's death. He maintained throughout that he had not harmed her. The jury at Cambridge Crown Court disagreed. On July 17th, 2024, they returned a unanimous verdict: guilty of murder. On July 23rd, Justice Kavanagh sentenced Robert Hammond to life imprisonment with a minimum of 24 years. He described the murder as brutal and determined. He called Robert a habitual and accomplished liar, and he described Sian as kind, bubbly, very friendly, devoted to her daughters. A woman killed by a man she trusted completely in their own bedroom on an otherwise ordinary Sunday night. But the verdict was not the end of the story, because Robert Hammond did not just murder a wife, he murdered a mother. And what happened next inside that family is the part of this case that stays with you long after the sentence is handed down. His daughters wrote letters to the court in his support. Those letters are not evidence of poor judgment. They are evidence of an impossible human position. When you love someone, the truth about them does not erase that love. Those Dawes daughters are simultaneously mourning the mother who was taken from them and the father they thought they had. Both losses tangled together, no clean way to separate them. Sian's mother and sister also wrote asking for leniency, despite having lost Sian themselves. People trying, in the most human way possible, to hold the remaining pieces together. Robert Hammond took one life on the night of October 29th, but the damage radiates outward. To daughters who will carry this forever. To a mother who outlived her child. To friends who sat across a dinner table from them the night before it happened. It does not stop radiating. Sian Hammond completed her first 10K run. She had a degree in biochemistry and a warmth no qualification can teach. She was the person who showed up, who remembered things about people, who made whatever room she was in a little better. And she died fighting, with her hands, in her own bedroom, against a man who had already, 4 days earlier, decided exactly how much she was worth. £450,000. That is what Robert Hammond decided Sian's life was worth. The jury disagreed, and so did she. The case of Robert Hammond is a reminder that the most dangerous place a woman can sometimes be is inside a long marriage to a man who values his image more than her life. People who believe they are being private are leaving trails everywhere. in their fitness devices, their browsers, their bank accounts, their front door cameras. Robert Hammond assumed he would not be investigated. He was wrong. If this story moved you, share it, because Sian Hammond deserves to be remembered as more than a case number. She was a biochemist, a businesswoman, a runner, a mother. Subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications. New cases every week. And leave a comment below. One question. Do you think 24 years is a just minimum for what Robert Hammond did, or should it have been longer? I will see you in the next one.